So, hi everybody. This is Karsten, and you're watching or listening to 𝘔𝘦𝘬𝗫 Live, either on LinkedIn Live right now, really live, or recording on our platform. Normally, I'm hosting this with Jean. She's currently out due to operation. Jean and I, we're both CIO advisors in North America and Europe. And our discussions here are for CIOs, enterprise architects, digital leaders, really, to bridge the gap between strategy and execution. We have informal discussions with thought leaders on market trends, challenges that they see in their discussions with their clients or industry, what people are facing today, how to overcome those challenges. And we're really happy to have Richard with us today and share on his big experience in thought leadership. So if I may kind of like ask you, Richard, to tell us a little bit about kind of like yourself first, a little bit about your background, and then also what really strategic portfolio management is, and can you give us a little segue into that?
Karsten, hi, thank you for having me. Yes, I've been obsessing over this topic of portfolio management for too many years. And I'm here for OnePlan, and OnePlan is a project portfolio management software company.
I thought I just realized I was mute.
Oh.
And can you tell us? And I just see Jean is joining us, so I will just bring her into our discussion here in a second. And then Jean, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. So sorry, I was running late.
Okay, yeah, just mentioned that you were having surgery and are kind of like recovering now.
I am. Yeah, I'm in physical therapy and using a cane, so I'm getting there.
Hi, Jean.
Very good.
Good to see you in action.
Not in action, just in sitting, but okay.
Alrighty. So we just started, but then Richard, tell us a little bit about kind of like what is kind of like strategic portfolio management, and what kind of trends have you seen in your client engagements there?
Yes, well, you know, the industry OnePlan is in has typically been known as project portfolio management. Increasingly, we think of what we're doing as strategic portfolio management. And what that really means, to try and summarize that, is while it's still very relevant to have processes and use software like OnePlan for managing your portfolio of projects, the fundamental goal increasingly is how do you execute your strategy successfully and use that as a starting point. And that includes not just the projects you might invest in and run, but initiatives, transformation initiatives, products, services, really seeing the whole enterprise as this portfolio investments that you make. And I think another part of strategic portfolio management is not just focusing on the execution of work, but also focusing on the customer and focusing on the strategic value of the things that you invest in.
Great. So what made kind of like the industry, but also your organization, kind of like switch more from the project portfolio to kind of like a more strategic approach and strategic management?
Yes. Well, we're very careful to try and meet people where they are. So, you know, not everybody is ready for strategic portfolio management right now. You know, there's a lot of people who just say, well, it'd be great if we could have visibility around where we're spending our money and what our people are working on, you know. And so that is a really important part of, you know, where we often start with our customers. But I think that the trends that's we're leading into strategic portfolio management is maybe tied to other factors that are going on in the business world and IT. One is, of course, agility and the importance of being agile. But another one is maybe tied to digital transformation. In the old days when we were doing portfolio management and you were setting up portfolios of projects and initiatives in the enterprise, you would say, well, we've got the IT department, so they've got a portfolio. We've got the HR or human resource department, they have a portfolio. Same goes for product development. But because I think technology now permeates every aspect of the enterprise, it's not really helpful to isolate or organize or make investment decisions based on those silos for how enterprises have organized themselves. So what that means is today, if you think about any major initiative or new product or service in the enterprise, it's going to have an element of technology. And so it makes a lot of sense to focus on being able to manage dependencies between different departments and different types of work. The product development portfolio, the human resources portfolio, the marketing portfolio, they're all going to have ties into each other and to technology. And so what that means is, instead of organizing around business units so much in portfolio management, now we can organize around the customer and what the customer cares about, and start thinking about how we might organize people differently into things like value streams as a way to deliver more value.
I'm really glad you brought that up about value streams, because I worked with a company about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago now, and they were transitioning away. Their architecture organization was transitioning to really focus on any digital projects. And in fact, they built their EA kind of around digital transformation projects, and the focus was value streams. And I'm pretty sure that they had Microsoft project, or they had a Microsoft product. And the problem was that was very centered around, like you said, which is a good statement earlier, that the projects were very end to end, and they very horizontal, they were very vertical. So to look at a value stream, you had multiple projects going on at different heights and widths and lengths, etc. But there was no way to really capture the visualization of that value stream. What were the projects in it? What were the dependencies? And who owned those dependencies? So how do you solve a problem like that? I mean, because I think every company is dealing with that in some form or another, or will be.
Yeah, and that's a good question. And these are areas where in OnePlan we're investing in solutions to which we'll see more of this year around this subject of visualizing value streams. But I'll try and summarize it. That I think there's two ways that I see companies being able to use value streams for portfolio management today. One is around this problem of, well, what projects or initiatives should I invest in the first place? Now, historically, that's been down to a sort of secretive panel of people who say, these are the initiatives we're going to do this year. Increasingly, we've opened that up to enable more democratic ideation of ideas and requests, and that's new things as well we're doing in OnePlan today around how anybody in the enterprise can submit an idea for a project, and also use ideation tools to sort of vote on ideas and requests and so on. Now, but there's another interesting thing I think for the future around value streams, which is, if you take the point of view that, going back to what I said about, don't organize your enterprise around how you think it's easiest for you to manage, in silos of departments. Organize your enterprise and your portfolio in a way that your customer would. So if you think about the products and the services that your customer really values, those are your value streams. And if you say, okay, well, let's build our portfolio management approach around what our customer cares about, which are these value streams. And a value stream could be, in healthcare, that could be a way that new patients register for care at a clinic and then receive care, receive follow-up care and medication and so on. It's a kind of value stream. If you organize around value streams in that way, and those become your portfolios, then you can say, well, hang on, what if we could somehow measure what's happening in that value stream? If we measure what's happening in that value stream, we'll be able to identify the issues where we are wasting time, where we have inefficiency, where the customer gets really frustrated. These are all things you might measure using customer journey mapping. If you can measure those things, it will give you specific ideas for where your investment should be. So it will give you very specific ideas saying, you know what, we should have a new initiative to increase the speed of care to our patients, and we think we can use technology or some other means to do that. That becomes a project. We've got a business case for it because we just measured where the inefficiencies in the current process are. We got everything we need. So what we're working on at OnePlan is how we can use some of our technologies to measure what's going on in a customer value stream, visualize it, and give you a diagnosis, which effectively is suggestions for the projects you should be doing.
So is that incorporating a bit of AI in there?
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for AI. This year in OnePlan, we've now launched our AI assistant for portfolio management, 𝘱𝘂𝗲𝘀. And 𝘱𝘂𝗲𝗀 today, you can say to 𝘱𝘂𝗲𝗀, look at my project portfolio or initiative portfolio of hundreds of initiatives and tell me which ones you think are most at risk, or which ones should I be focusing on right now. You can ask 𝘱𝘂𝗲𝗀 these kinds of questions. I think as we develop AI in the future, there's a good opportunity to use AI for measuring value streams, just like we were talking about, to actually constantly monitor and assess where the issues are, where we've got opportunity for improvement, improving the customer experience, improving the speed of delivery or whatever it may be. I think that also probably means more focus on machine learning. I think with value streams, you'd need to train your AI into how to monitor and assess your value streams. I think this is a really exciting area for the future. Yeah.
Good. That's interesting. I'm glad OnePlan is attacking that. I don't see that in the market right now, where the tools that I call PMO tools are actually taking on value streams to that degree.
Yeah. Yes. It's a focus for us. Another part of things we are launching this year later regarding value streams is really the other part of value streams and portfolio management, and that's how you think about your people and your human capital. I said that one way to see value streams is the customer journey, what the customer cares about, and how we can monitor that. But the next logical step to that is, well, instead of having all of the IT people working on IT projects and all the marketing people working on marketing projects and all the manufacturing engineering people working on manufacturing engineering, wouldn't it be more efficient if we were able to mix those people together? Because realistically, modern initiatives require all of those kinds of skills. And so if you look at portfolio management today in most enterprises, it's really hard to get people onto initiatives because they're working on something else in their department, and then you have to sort of assemble people from different teams. Sometimes that means it's the first time that group of people, you know, those engineers, those IT people, those marketing people, maybe the first time they ever worked on an initiative together. So you get all of these inefficiencies where you're trying to get people together for a new transformation initiative. They haven't worked together before. Most of them arrive late to the initiative because they're working for their business unit on something else. And so with the organizations that are, and this is the minority today, but the organizations that are moving towards thinking about their human resources in terms of value streams, you can still keep the traditional reporting structures. You know, I'm not saying no more IT department, no more marketing department. Absolutely not. You still need those, you know, hierarchies and people reporting into business units and having people monitoring their professional development. So don't touch any of those important, you know, established structures. But when it comes to initiatives, projects, you can develop these cross-functional teams, and those become really your new portfolios. A portfolio you could describe as being, you know, a large group of cross-functional people who are all focused on one or two value streams or one or two major products and services for customers. And so yeah, one thing we're launching this year in OnePlan is just more flexibility how you can manage your human resources like this in a portfolio context, so that you can think about managing teams of people, individuals. If you are really into agile methodologies, which I am, you can adopt some of these practices you'll see in things like scaled agile, when you have small teams and then teams of teams and so on. So I think part of this future of value-driven strategic portfolio management is rethinking how you organize your people as well, and how you can more rapidly get the right cross-functional team onto a new initiative without a lot of inefficiency.
When I was at Freddie Mac, I had a PMO, but I had a PMO within the enterprise architecture. And we linked that to the PMO, the IT PMO. And the reason we did that was because we had so many, you know, it was almost scaled agile. We'd have certain types of architects on projects early on, and then they would drop off, and then they would come back on, you know, around the solution time, and then they would come back down. And so having to manage those resources on multiple projects for multiple skills was, it was just hell. That's all I can say. So it's nice to hear that there's some tools coming that would help to do that, because I think all EA organizations struggle with that, because architects have to be on so many projects and at different times, and they will spend an inordinate amount of time in one phase or one section of that project lifecycle, and then drop off and then have to resurface. And so to be able to schedule resources, in my opinion, it definitely leads to the successful execution of the project as a whole.
Yes, and you know, a lot of this is process driven, and a lot of this kind of thinking is I think coming from agile portfolio management practices. You know, I mentioned scaled agile. It's a good example of an agile portfolio management practice. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about is, you know, when I think of agility, I think about speed and I think about adaptability. And if as an organization you care about speed to value for your customers and improving that, and if you care about being able to pivot during the year and really change your investments internally based on external factors, you know, that kind of adaptability, then having the organization we were just talking about really enables that speed and adaptability.
Yeah, speaking of adaptability, I sometimes wonder how much, and I want to like tap your insight there. If you look at how organizations invest, they do have like very often an annual plan where they kind of like come up with like, okay, these are our big strategic initiatives that we want to fund, and then like 80% of like the money is already gone and allocated, and then there's just like some or 90 or whatever it is, but like a big chunk is gone, and then like you have like something during the year to take on little things here and there.
Yes.
I like from what I've seen is kind of like two things. One is this is very often a political game, and not so much where the organization really wants to invest as like a whole organization. More sometimes it is somebody screaming the loudest or making the biggest fuss of like getting onto one of those strategic initiatives. And the second thing that I found is that it is something where it's missing to link it to kind of like what capabilities do I want to invest in my organization? What do I want to change from my for my organization as kind of like an underlying structure or an underlying kind of like capability? What do I want to do in 3-5 years as an organization different, and therefore I need to invest money into that change?
Yes, you're right on. 10 years ago, probably, I'd be saying to customers, it'd be great if you could get out of this habit of annual planning because it really boxes you in. And now, 10 years later, I have I would say the majority of customers are actually proactively coming to us and saying, we want to get out of the habit of annual planning, help us with that. And so that is definitely a big trend. And of course, it comes back to this question of adaptability, that market shifts happen faster than they used to. People's heads were spinning when everything was disrupted during the COVID era. We've had lots of like shocks in the economic system in the last few years, not least of which is how quickly technology evolves and can change the competitive landscape in your industry. And so this question of I need the adaptability around my investment planning has become now almost mainstream. And so the model I really encourage people to think about is some kind of quarterly cycle. Now, if your finance people, for whatever reason, are still attached to an annual budgeting, which many still are, we can still work around that, because you can not allocate all of that money in one go, but rather think about allocating it to strategies, allocating it to portfolios that are made up of value streams, so you understand you're investing in these customer services and these products. Do it at that level before you start allocating it to projects or initiatives, and then have quarterly strategic reviews where after you've been through an intake and grooming and planning process, you can say at each quarter, okay, here are the things I think we should be doing in more detail for the coming quarter, and also an outline of things for the quarter after that. Please, can we have approval to fund those things and move forward? So that cadence of having a strategic approach to planning quarterly instead of annually is becoming a real thing today. Yeah.
Great. The other thing that I realized is, and I wanted to see how much have you seen this, is that like I'm in a big transformation project right now with one of my clients, and within that transformation, we also have like one work stream that is purely on business transformation and kind of like the change management aspects of it, because it's not only about kind of like having a new tool or a new way of working in, but also getting the people to change and the whole make it kind of work in the long term, so to say. So how much kind of like have you seen the change management aspect being more important, or is it something that is kind of like always been there and kind of like in a steady way?
Yeah, good question. Do you mean change management for all of the new technologies and initiatives that the enterprise is running? Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
I'd say if I was to try and generalize that, again, some years ago, nobody was really talking about that enough. I think today we're at the step where people say we have a problem with change management, and they're sort of at least acknowledging that it's a thing they need to get better at. I don't think we're in the place yet where everybody is doing that particularly well. So it's a really good opportunity for everybody to mature with. The good thing is there's lots of methods to help you with adoption and change management. I mean, funnily enough, when we implement with an enterprise, when we implement OnePlan as new technology, that implies using new tools, a new way of working, redesigning a business process. So we deal with this, and we have our own method for how we introduce these things incrementally to people, get them to try them out. I'm a big believer in using champions. So going back to value streams and that way of thinking, if you think about any technology you're introducing to the enterprise or any new way of working, think about the people ultimately who are going to be doing the work with that new process or with that new tool, and from that group, identify some champions who can be involved in the design and the validation and the piloting of it throughout. That's a really key piece that we've had success with in OnePlan. Of course, there's a lot more to it. There's corporate communications, there's all kinds of things. But I find if you do nothing else, identify people who are actually going to be impacted by the change and get them included as early as you can.
That's a good one. I like it. Something I have to write down now. We are live, and we do encourage you to ask questions also via LinkedIn. So we actually do have the first question coming in. Richard, that's for you. So how do you measure the return of investment of strategic initiative? Because you can take the rest, but
having tried all kinds of methods for this over the years, in OnePlan there's various ways to do this, but that we've deliberately put in there. But there's two that really stand out that not only do I as a process practitioner love, but also our customers love, more importantly, but also things that we've put into OnePlan. And so one thing that some organizations still prefer to do and need to do is actually measuring financial return. And I work, for example, with a big pharmaceutical company doing a lot of change initiatives at the moment, and they are measuring the outcome of those change initiatives over a 5-year period. They're measuring all of those things with very specific data around EBITDA uplift, cost avoidance, etc. Now that is great if you have the insight, the capability to measure specific financial return on an investment. But often, so that's option one, but often that's just not possible for some people, because sometimes you're experimenting with new thoughts and you don't quite know what the return's going to be, or maybe your benefits are around the customer experience, not around dollars and so on. So I'm a big fan of the objectives and key results approach, where you establish at the enterprise level and maybe at the portfolio level specific business objectives or strategic goals, and then you determine some metrics or key results for how you're going to measure those things. Now, what that means is when you do your annual planning or quarterly planning, or when somebody says, I've got an idea for an initiative, you can associate that thing straight away with either some existing objectives and key results, and that could be, like I said, numbers of new users, or improving the the time it takes for a business process to occur, whatever your value stream mapping has told you to measure, in fact. And so you can associate an idea with any kind of metrics using OKRs, and that becomes something you do at the start when you're doing your planning, but that data lives with that initiative throughout its life and beyond. So going back to having quarterly cycles for portfolio management, I like an approach where you get your departments, your portfolios to report on their metrics, their OKRs each quarter, and say, okay, for this initiative or for this portfolio, we associated that thing with these customer satisfaction or speed targets, and here's how we're doing right now in this quarter. So yeah, short answer is OKRs, big fan of that approach, and of course, if you want to manage financial details and capable of doing it, go for it.
Excellent. Yeah, I think the management of the financials is always something that benefits you, but is also something where I've seen organizations struggle with to kind of like get everything kind of like together and lined up correctly, so that you can really rely on the data and make those decisions.
I think one of the hardest things is finding is clear accountability about who is supposed to be measuring and how. And so this is a really important thing to put in process, because again, going back to the difference between project portfolio management and strategic portfolio management, in the world of project portfolio management, everybody has good intentions of measuring the benefits of initiatives. But in reality, if you're project based, the project team disbands at the end of the project and they'll go and do something else. And so when it comes to, well, who's going to measure the benefits and the return on the project? And nobody is. Whereas with strategic portfolio management, you put a lot of importance on the role of portfolio managers to be this point of continuity for that customer service or that set of customer products for the long term. So long after the project phase of some new initiative has passed, the portfolio managers should be still measuring the return.
Yeah, we used to, in one company, we used to 6 months after implementation, we would go back out and do a spot measurement just to see where we were. And I spoke about that one time in a conference, and I asked, I think there were maybe 50 or 60 people, and it was a small group, how many companies actually went out and measured after they went into implementation or production. And none. I was the only one that was doing it.
Yeah.
So therefore,
everyone knows they should be. That's the thing.
Yeah. They always have a reason for not doing it. We don't have staff, or we don't, whatever.
Yeah, but that's why we have discussions like today to kind of like spread the knowledge and remind people of like what to do, and follow some of the best practices that Richard also mentioned.
I think it's of huge value to be able to say, we worked on this project for a year. It was supposed to do X, Y, Z. It did do X, Y, but we didn't know about Z.
Yeah.
Right. And if I was a CIO, I would be I would want to see those evaluations come in, 6 months, a year after implementation.
Yeah. So we got one more question from LinkedIn Live here. So the scheduling of resources is a challenge. So how, any advice on the scheduling, and any industry tools that you have found does this well?
Yeah, it's a great question, because this is, just such a tough nut to crack for so many organizations. So I represent OnePlan, and we have a number of resource planning tools built into OnePlan. You can, if you are sort of more traditional waterfall project management based company, you can actually schedule resources, in a Gantt chart type way, and associate them to tasks that have dependencies and all those kinds of good things. Now, equally, you might say, that's too much detail, that's too much effort, I just need like the broad stroke. So we also have a thing called resource plans in OnePlan, where you can sort of just plan people at the level of granularity of what are they doing this year or this quarter, and just keep it more high level and simple. One thing, as I think about more companies embracing agile methods and value streams, then what becomes more important in the future is how you can manage your resource planning, not just in terms of putting individuals on initiatives and sort of that Tetris game of what different initiatives is this person working on, but how you can also do that at the level of team of teams, manage big groupings of people as well. So some of our new resource management releases we've got coming up later this year address some of those things about dealing with groups of people and so on. But it's very much, I would say sometimes our technology is too clever and can do so much, and the reality is that people and organizations, coming back to change management, just find resource planning just hard. Forget technology, it's just a hard discipline for big groups of people to do consistently well. So I always encourage people to not over-engineer their resource planning approach and try and keep it as simple as you can, so that you capture the lowest common denominator of capability in the organization, because you really need everybody to do it consistently well. And so, start off keeping it as simple as you can with simple goals for resource management.
Do you see that being tied into kind of like the financial aspect that we just talked about as well, that you kind of like, if you do resource better, you're also better at your finance, or is there no correlation? What's your take on that?
Yeah, that is a good question, because strategic portfolio management, agile portfolio management, it's all about customer value, and so it's all about measuring value, and what that means is certainly the value to the customer. We talked about that, but it's also what is the cost of that to me internally, and what are my alternatives? And so for a lot of organizations, resource cost is their biggest cost. Now, for others, it's not, but certainly in an IT department, it often is. And so, absolutely, I think every portfolio management practitioner or organization, PMO, should be at least aspiring to manage the cost of their resourcing. Now, in OnePlan, that's pretty straightforward, because when you do a resource plan in OnePlan, it can automatically calculate the cost of that labor for you. You don't even have to think about it. So that's a nice aspect. But maybe that's also another trend I'm seeing, which is people increasingly caring about the actual dollar value of the investments they're making when they're very labor centric. But I guess the short answer is, no matter what you're doing in portfolio management, you should be measuring dollars, because it's all about value. At the end of the day, portfolio management is all about economics.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you. We do have a webinar coming up, just sort of like at the tail end here. So if you still have questions, feel free to put it in. We're ending this webinar or this live session here soon. There is a more in-depth on enterprise PMO and how to set up your enterprise PMO with OnePlan coming up next week with José Levy, good friend and colleague of ours, with this joint partnership here between Lean42 and OnePlan. And the other thing that I wanted to also just let you know, this will be recorded, available also on LinkedIn directly, but also if you missed one of our previous LinkedIn lives with other thought leaders on enterprise architecture, capacity management, lean, etc. We had or business architecture. We had like various thought leaders on here already. All those recordings are available on lean42.academy. It is a great resource to go in and check out those recordings. All of those are free. We do have, because we do run an annual conference, the conference recordings are paid offer there as well. But all that is here is for free, because it really is something where we, our mission is to build more capacity in the digital leaders out there to manage their projects, their PMOs, their enterprise architect initiatives, their business transformations better. And we hope that sharing today's insight helped to grow everybody of our listeners here, and helping with becoming better. So any final words from you, Jean, before we get it closed by Richard?
No, I'm really anxious to see the webinar. Thank you, Richard, for this. This is great. And I'm really excited to see the presentation where Jose is going to go in and show that, and I'm going to look up a few challenges for him on that tool. So
I'm glad to hear it. Keep him honest.
I want to keep him on his toes, right?
Yeah, that will be good. Jose's he's so knowledgeable, so experienced. He is great. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Whenever I have a PMO question or project management issue, I dial him. He's Jose 800 project. Thanks again, Richard, for joining us.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks everybody for listening in. And if there's some more comments or some more questions, feel free to use like the LinkedIn here to comment or ask questions, or connect with Jean, Richard, or I through LinkedIn. So it is something where it's really about a community out here.
Okay. Bye, guys.
So thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.